Craig Breslow spoke to the media and talked about some potential call-ups that you need to know about. But before we get into that, if they make a move, we're going to make a video. So don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button right now. We are growing quickly. Our next goal is 5,000 subscribers, and the Red Sox are making a push to potentially win the division. If they get close, we will do some watch parties as well. You don't want to miss that. Make sure you join the family today for the fastest growing Red Sox YouTube channel on the internet. Join the community and hit that sub button right now. So Craig Breslow talked to the media before the Red Sox game yesterday against Houston Astros. We will talk about the game at the end of today's video, and talked about their pitching depth, whether or not some young guys could get called up, talked about Kristian Campbell, and we're going to react to all of that today. Here's what Craig Breslow had to say about the pitching depth post-deadline, because that was a big point of contention for a lot of people. They did not upgrade the pitching depth like we wanted them to, and with a playoff push coming in the next 2-ish months, what is that going to look like? Well, Breslow gave some pretty interesting thoughts here. He said, obviously at this point post-trade deadline, it's hard to transact or add to that depth. Whether it's Richard Fitts, David Sandlin, Connelly Early, Payton Tolle is pitching really well in Double-A. We feel like we've got options. Kyle Harrison has made some really promising changes to his repertoire, and the last couple of outings have been headed in the right direction. We're going to need the depth, and I completely agree with what Breslow says. You're going to need all of the help you can get at the end of this season. You're going to play in close games against really good teams. You're going to need your bullpen. You're going to need your starters to go long, and it's going to be all hands on deck. And he mentioned multiple players that are currently in the minor league system that might be very, very interesting. Payton Tolle is one of them. We talked about him around the trade deadline as someone that could potentially be moved, but he's been very impressive this year. His stats in the minors this year, 76 and 2/3 innings. He's got a 2.93 ERA, 116 Ks, only 21 walks, and a whip of 1.017. He's been dominating in every level that he's been in so far this season. Now, I think that he'll probably be the last of the bunch to get called up because he's still developing. He's still in one of the lower, I believe he's in Double-A at the time that I'm recording this. So he's not knocking on the door yet like a Sandlin or an Early who are already in Worcester, but he's definitely an option that we could see at some point this season. Kyle Harrison, I think, is one of the most obvious choices that he mentioned. You know, you trade for him in the Rafael Devers trade. He already has major league experience. What the Red Sox have been trying to do, I know people have asked me, Jack, why is Kyle Harrison not already up on this team? Because they are completely changing his repertoire, which Breslow mentioned. He was a very fastball-heavy pitcher with secondary pitches that just weren't that good, and he had to rely on his fastball, and major league hitters will exploit that. So what they've been doing while he's been in Worcester is completely overhauling his repertoire, like I said, and his pitch sequences and pitch mix and stuff like that. And look, if you look at Andrew Bailey's successes and failures, I forget who, I think it was Ed Hand who had this on Twitter. Forgive me if I got it wrong, but someone wrote a list of the successes and failures, and the Andrew Bailey / Red Sox pitching lab has had far more successes than they have failures. And I think Kyle Harrison will be one of those successes, and I would really look forward to seeing him up on this major league roster in the next month or so for a playoff push. If you want to see Kyle Harrison on the big league roster, all I want you to do for me is just like today's video. Like today's video, show that you want Kyle Harrison on the roster. I'm smashing the like button because I want to see him on the roster as soon as possible. You want to see another one of the Rafael Devers returns actually, turn into something, because James Tibbs is gone. He went in the Dustin May trade. Jordan Hicks has struggled to say the least since he's been up. If you can get Kyle Harrison up and he succeeds, then you might feel a little bit better about the Rafael Devers trade at the end of the day. How about the young guys? David Sandlin and Connor Early. Payton Tolle is a young guy too, but like I said, I think he's probably at the back of the line in terms of the names that Breslow mentioned. So let's talk about David Sandlin and Connelly Early. Breslow had another quote about this. He said, I think we're at the point where any opportunity we have to bolster the team and give us a better chance to win, we've got to open it. Whether it's Sandlin, Early, both, neither, I think those are options, and we'll take a lot of how the repertoires would play out of the pen. Sandlin's a guy who comes to mind. Really powerful stuff, and with a simplified approach, he could come in and just overwhelm hitters with his stuff. Those conversations are ongoing. So not only is he speculating, but they are having conversations every day about some of these young guys and where they could contribute in the bullpen or in the starting rotation over the next month or so. David Sandlin, like he said, is the one that really stands out so far this season in Double and Triple A. 87 and a third innings pitched, 3.50 ERA, 90 Ks, 28 walks, 1.168 WHIP. And I know the stats may not jump off the screen, but it's like Breslow said, it's the stuff. The stuff is overpowering. And if you can just overwhelm batters with the stuff that Sandlin has, he could come in and be a lockdown, high leverage reliever during a playoff run. And I think that Breslow and the Red Sox believe that he can. And that would be a very interesting call-up that I think that a lot of people would really like to see. Connelly Early is another interesting option as well. 75 and a third innings pitched this season, 2.39 ERA, 98 Ks, 34 walks, 1.168 WHIP. I mean, both of them have impressed enough to earn a spot on the Worcester roster. And now you've got Breslow, the head of baseball operations, saying that they are legitimate, pieces that could come up. Because look, Zach Kelly and Nick Birdie got taken off the IL yesterday, or 2 days ago at the time of recording this, and I don't trust either of them in the bullpen. I don't. I would rather bring up a David Sandlin, Connelly Early, see what they can do, and then if they don't do well, you bring back up Bernardino or bring back up somebody else. But, getting some power arms, some really interesting arms that major league talent have not seen yet could be a good idea for the Red Sox going forward. And I think, David Sandlin's probably got the best shot of the bunch of getting called up here in the near future. But you'd pick a pitcher. Who would you rather have up right now? Type S if you'd rather have up David Sandlin, or type E if you'd rather have up Connelly Early. Let me know down below in the comments. I think based on, and I'm not as I don't know everything about these prospects. There are other people that cover them way better than I do. But based off of what Breslow said and based off of what I've read and heard, I think Sandlin would be a very interesting option in the bullpen. And I'd love to see him get called up here in the next few weeks. But you let me know. S for Sandlin, E for Early. Pick a pitcher that you would want up on this roster soon. Let's talk about Kristian Campbell, then we'll talk about the game. We talked about Campbell in yesterday's video, but Breslow talked about him as well. So I thought we'd continue that conversation at least a little bit. And here's what Breslow had to say about Campbell. He said, "We've seen some of the results the last week or so where he's starting to impact the ball a little more and get a little more comfortable and locked in on defense at first base. We knew it was going to be a process. There was no question he was going to go down there, put his head down and get to work, and we're seeing some promising results." And this is what I talked about in yesterday's video as well. We also talked about Yostinson Garcia, who has officially been getting work at first base as of yesterday. We saw photos of him starting to get some work. We cannot give up on Kristian Campbell this quickly. And I think a lot of people have already, which is very concerning, because if you look again at his stats from his 13-game hit streak, since the middle of July, he's been mashing the baseball and he's starting to come around. I think, he lost a lot of confidence, with his big slump at the major league level. He gets sent back down to AAA, and not only is he having to retool his swing and figure out where his confidence went, he's also having to learn a new position in first base and get a lot of work at first base. Now that he's starting to get a little more comfortable defensively, he's also starting to come back around offensively. Now, I also made the point in yesterday's video as well that you need to see more than just like a 2-week, 3-week span. You need him to really show that this is not just like a hot streak, kind of hot flash type thing. But if he can do that, I don't see why he doesn't get called up when the roster number increases in September. I don't see why he doesn't join the roster. If he can continue the progress that he has, if he can continue to have the output that he's had, and he can play a decently good defensive first base, I wouldn't be surprised if we see him called up in September when rosters expand. You let me know, though, if you were Craig Breslow, would you call up Kristian Campbell to play first base? I want to say that specifically because I know a lot of people's issues was he was a detriment at second base. If he is playing sound first base down in AAA and he is ready to go, would you call him up to play first base? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know down below in the comments. If you were Craig Breslow, what would you do? All right, let's talk about the game, ladies and gentlemen. The Red Sox sweep the Houston Astros 6-1 in fantastic fashion. It was a fun game to watch. I mean, the headliner is Lucas Giolito. He gives you 8 innings, 3 hits, only 1 run. He also only gave up a walk. That is 4 base runners for the Astros in 8 innings. That's just fantastic. You couldn't ask for anything better. The 1 run came off a Carlos Correa home run. Like, that's 1 bad pitch. Now, he left it middle. It wasn't good placement, but he locked in and locked up a relatively good Astros lineup. I get it. They've got a lot of injuries, blah, 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 whatever. They're still first place in the West. They've still won 62 games. They are still a very impressive team. And Lucas Giolito came out and absolutely shoved and helped a bullpen that used 6 relievers the night before. You only needed Chris Murphy to go in the 9th, and that was it. That was very valuable to resting your relievers. And that was just tip of the cap to Giolito. He comes out and he absolutely shoves. He's 8-2 this year with an ERA of 3.57. That's everything you could have possibly asked for when Giolito came back from Tommy John. It's all you could have asked for. So I was very pleased to see his performance yesterday. And then the offense didn't do much, but you did enough to exploit Framber Valdez, who is in Cy Young conversations and is heralded as one of the best pitchers in baseball this year. You were able to make him absolutely crumble in the 4th inning and give up 6 runs. And it happened in all different ways. Walks, hit by pitches, passed balls, stolen bases. You laid down a few bunts, which the Red Sox never do. A lot of small ball, poking the ball into the outfield, some infield hits, fast base running. They did it all. That was one of the most entertaining half innings we've had as Red Sox fans this season because the Red Sox had the pressure on and they never took their foot off the gas. Like, they scored, I think, 3 or 4 runs before they even got the first out. Like, Framber Valdez was clearly in shambles during that inning, and it was because of how much pressure you were putting on him by playing good small ball, moving runners over, running the bases properly, and not making mistakes, playing good, clean, fundamental baseball. And that was one of the best offensive innings we've seen. Trevor Story went 2 for 4 today. He was one of the big stories of the day. Ceddanne Rafaela goes 3 for 3. He has a multi-hit game as well. Abraham Toro had a hit. Roman Anthony had a hit. Rob Refsnyder had a hit. But a lot of these guys that even didn't have hits contributed in their own ways. Alex Bregman had a walk. Wilyer Abreu had an RBI and scored a run. Connor Wong had an RBI as well. Like, a lot of these guys that didn't have hits still contributed. Your entire lineup, especially in that 4th inning, contributed. All 7 runs in this game were all scored in the 4th inning. After that, it was like a pitching masterclass. And so for the Red Sox to come out and completely exploit the weaknesses of Framber Valdez, again, who's heralded as one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, was really, really special. We are going to talk standings talk real quick, and then we'll get into the pitchers for the Royals, and then we are going to predict what's going to happen. Looking at the scores around the league, I'm filming this early on Sunday, so most games have not ended yet. The Rays game ended. They lost. The Yankees are losing 6-1 to the Marlins at the time of recording this. Let's look at the others. The Blue Jays are beating the Royals. The Twins are beating the Guardians. And then the biggest game of the day is Rangers-Mariners. That has not started yet at the time of recording this. As the standings currently look, and look, I'm going to look at the AL East standings too, because I know we've just been looking at the wild card standings, but the AL East is very in play. You are 4 games back of the Blue Jays for first place in the East, and you are on a hot streak right now. And the Blue Jays have a very, very difficult schedule coming up. Like, think gauntlet that the Red Sox had coming out of the All-Star break. So it's in play, folks. It's in play. You currently sit 2.5 games up on the final wild card spot. 3.5 games up on the Texas Rangers, who are the closest team to a wild card spot that is not already in. And like I said, you are 4 games back on the Toronto Blue Jays for the AL East. It's definitely in play, guys. Like, I didn't think I'd be saying that a month or so ago, but the Red Sox, low-key, could win this damn thing. And on top of that, they, like, if everything goes right for them, and I don't want to go out and, I don't want to, count my chickens before they hatch, but they have there's 2 teams in the American League that have a better record than you. The Blue Jays and the Tigers. Like, they could be pushing for a top 2, top 3 seed in the playoffs if they continue to play well. They've won 8 of their last 10. They've won 5 straight. Like, the Red Sox are hot right now. And if they can string together more wins, this is going to be a dangerous, dangerous team. Let's talk about the pitchers coming up. Monday, today, is Brayan Bello. Then we've got Garrett Crochet on the mound on Tuesday, and then Dustin May is making his Red Sox debut on Wednesday against the Kansas City Royals. Let's see if we've got their pitchers yet. Bailey Falter, a trade deadline pickup for the Royals, is going on Monday against Brayan Bello. Tuesday is Bergert, I don't know who that is, against Garrett Crochet. And then Wednesday is Michael Wacha against Dustin May. Predict the Red Sox record against the Royals. I'm going to go 2 out of 3. I think they win the Bello game. I think they win the Crochet game. Dustin May, we'll see what happens. He's just an unknown. I haven't watched him pitch, so I really don't know. But I think they win at least 2. You let me know. Predict the Red Sox record against the Royals. That's where we're going to end it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. Make sure you subscribe, like I already said. As the Red Sox are making a push to the playoffs, there's going to be opportunities to do some watch parties, especially if they're pushing for the AL East. So you don't want to miss that. Let's help grow this channel. Let's prove to the bosses that you guys want more baseball coverage. Hit that subscribe button today. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, go Sox.